Good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you today. I'm actually double broadcasting for the first time. So if you see me shifting my eyes from one place to another, it's because I'm new at this. But I'm coming to you live both on my virtual village group and to my Mastering the Juggle corporate mommy business page. And I'll put the link to either in the comments so you guys can go back and forth. But for those of you on my corporate page, I do lives every Monday, Thursday, and Friday at my virtual village page. But I wanted to double broadcast today just to reach out to you guys because we have some more people coming into my business page. And I wanted to make a clear announcement that that's also where we can connect. So today I'm going to be talking to you about mommy brain, what exactly it is, whether or not you may or may not have it, or if you could be having symptoms of what we consider mommy brain and you're writing it off as being that, but it's actually something else. And then either way, whatever it ends up being, what are things that you can do to help? Okay. So mommy brain is a term, for those of you who don't know, is a term that's been coined and used to describe moms after they have children, like that kind of like absent-mindedness of a mom. Okay. So if you've never heard that term, then that's wonderful. But they call it pregnancy brain when you're pregnant, and then they can call it mommy brain after you have children. So what mommy brain actually is, if we're going to get really specific and really talk about technically what it is after you have children, for up to a year after having children, your hormones are off. So it's a hormonal shift, right? And that potentially could be prolonged if you're breastfeeding, but it's a hormonal shift. And it's also caused by sleep deprivation and also a shift in your lifestyle. Like you've gone from not having this baby to having a baby, and your whole life and your responsibilities have shifted. So technically mommy brain is that hormonal, it's from actual fact, like not actual factors, because they're all actual factors, but concrete factors like having less sleep and also having that hormonal shift after having a child. And what it means is as a result of that, you have this absent-mindedness. You are forgetful. Like I was talking to somebody the other day who was saying that, you know, she used to have a certain felt a certain confidence in her career that she wasn't feeling right at that moment. And she was attributing it to potentially being mommy brain. Meanwhile, her child was well over a year old. So that's why I wanted to come forward and talk to you at this live. So after the year is over and your hormones have, you know, at least from your pregnancy and childbirth have leveled out, right? Have gone back to normal, whatever normal is for you, then we have to start looking at what other factors could be causing this mommy brain, what's causing these issues. We can't just attribute it to, well, I have kids now, so this is what this looks like. I guess we can, but then you're accepting a reality that is not most helpful for you, especially if you're a working mom, which we all are here. You know, we need our brains to work at a certain level. If you're competing in your career, if you want to advance, if you are dependent to not just be an emotional support for your family, but also a financial support for your family, we can't, you know, just say, well, I have kids now, so my brain's just not there anymore. You know, we need function in our brains. So I wanted to bring to you some really helpful things to start digging through and looking at that can actually help you figure out what is going on in terms of your brain after you have children, things to like check off your list to say whether it is or is not something, and then what the next steps are so you can actually move back to, or not back to, because we're never going back, right? Once you have children, your lives have changed, but go forward to a new space of very high productivity, even post having children, where your brain is acute and you're using, you know, your senses at a heightened level and you're not feeling like you're in that fog, okay? So a big cause of that fog that we feel, if it's not actually what's considered mommy brain, because you're past that first year and your hormones are leveled out, could still be caused by sleep deprivation. Okay, so if you look up, the research, they say 7 to 9 hours for adults. So I don't know who of you on here are getting 7 to 9 hours sleep, but not everybody needs 7 to 9 hours sleep to be functioning beyond the level of feeling, like they're in a fog. Everyone's different. Everyone functions on a different level. If you speak to somebody who has ADHD, they might be able to go for a lot longer. People have different realms of capability, but if you're feeling in that fog, that's one thing to look at. And looking at what shifts you could potentially make in your life to make sure that you're getting enough sleep for you, okay? But this can also backfire because it could also be the story we're telling ourselves about sleep. So if you are telling yourself, I have to get 10 hours of sleep to feel good, and that's not necessarily the truth, but that's the story you're telling yourself, and you're like obsessively checking the time to see how much sleep you've gotten, then that can actually backfire where you are constantly feeling tired because you're constantly telling yourself the story that you haven't had enough sleep. Okay, so stories that we tell ourselves is also something very important to look at. Okay, and that goes into the next step, which is, across the board, what story are you telling yourself? If you feel like your brain is not where it was, or you're scattered, and you weren't like that before, are you telling yourself that this is what it's like to be a mom? Because step one in fixing any problem is admitting that there's a problem. So you're at step one already, like you're acknowledging that your brain isn't where you want it to be. But step two, we missed step two. Step two is believing that there's a solution. And if your answer is, I just am like this now because I have kids, then you're not going to look for a solution for whatever it is that's actually going on for you. You're going to stop right there and accept the fact that this is just what your life looks like because now you have children. But there are solutions for our brains, and a lot of it is because of the fact that we go from having very, very full lives, right, to then adding children to our already full lives. And we do that without a real system in place. We do that just thinking that things will kind of fall into place and they'll work itself out. And that is a huge mistake that moms and dads and couples make, because children, not only on a physical level, are a huge tasking presence, right? They're a 24/7 hour job, just in reality of the fact that they're like helpless and we have to take care of them, through many years of guidance and, repeating ourselves. But they're also extremely emotionally taxing because we have this desire, some of it's innate and from our, caveman brain, and some of it is as we bond with them, but this like responsibility, this emotional responsibility to not only, from the caveman perspective, is to keep our children alive, right? Just keep them physically alive. And now with all the information that we have out there as far as like emotional health, right? Or trying to help them succeed, whatever that means to us, or whatever messages we're telling ourselves about what our childhood was like and what we want to make sure doesn't happen. And all these fears are getting put out. All that stuff is hugely taxing emotionally. And when we are overwhelmed emotionally, when we are anxious, we miss stuff. And when we are exhausted emotionally, we feel sad, depressed, and just want to go back to sleep. When we're overwhelmed, we want to do either fight, flight, or freeze. That's what our brain does. So if you take having a whole life filled with things where your whole life was filled, right? So when I had children, I had a full career. I had a husband that I was taking care of. I had a house that I was taking care of. And I had 2 dogs. I had friends that I was trying to keep up with. I had a huge life. And then you add a child into that. There was no room for that child. I had to make room. But what we do is we're never taught how to make that room. So just like when you're if, I don't know, when you're at college, right, and you're taking 4 classes as opposed to 5 classes, sometimes adding that 5th class makes all the other classes fall apart, because it's not just adding 1 class. It's like all of a sudden there's no real strategy in place how to manage all of them at the same time. So you're dropping other stuff while you're looking at something. Okay. That's what happens. Now imagine it's a 24/7 class. It's a class that takes up all of your time, and you're still trying to manage the other 4 at the same time. That's what happens when we have kids. But we're never taught how to make a system to make this work. We're taught how to do things like the little things, like how to make a system to make sure that we go to doctor's appointments, right? We're taught how to make a system. There are all these things out there for how to make a system to make sure that dinner is done, right? Or how to make a system to make sure your laundry is done. There are all those systems. But when it comes to the emotional well-being of our children, there's no one who's really teaching a system in place to make sure that you can juggle your job and the emotional needs of your children and not completely go insane and actually get sleep, right? That's what you need. It's not about the other smaller things. So I went a little bit on a tangent, but it's so, so important. And I really it's the biggest message that I can give moms is that there needs to be a system in place that talks about the big stuff, not the systems in place to deal with the little ones. Okay. So when we don't have that system in place, when we are not sure that we're moving forward in the important places like our children, where our relationship with our children, or what's going on with our children, or our careers, or our partners, or just ourselves as human beings, when we're not sure that those things are moving forward, we feel stressed and overwhelmed. We wake up in the middle of the night with huge stressors. We can't fall asleep and we don't know why. We reach out to other ways to calm ourselves down that are not necessarily healthy. We feel more exhausted and, all over the place because we are feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. And when you're overwhelmed and stressed out, you also can't see solutions. You don't find things. This is another example of it. So I tell stories like this all the time. I'm going to give you another example of where our brains are so crazy that when we are stressed out, we literally don't see things that are right in front of us. I was looking for a book, and I just was like, I need to find this book. I need to find this book. And I just had it. And I ran all around the house looking for the book. And I'm like, I need to find it. But my brain had automatically gone to, it's going to be gone. It's going to just disappear. And I'm going to look for it for a half hour. And I finally have a couple of minutes where I can look at this book and I need it for something. And I'm not going to be able to find it. That's what was the story that I was going on in the back of my head. But when I stopped and knew that I was telling myself that story and took a breath and said, it's here. I just had it. Then my caveman brain, my amygdala, calmed down, and my actual functional brain started to work again. And I was able then to retrace my steps calmly. And I found the book in a minute. So when we are stressed out and overwhelmed and we don't breathe, we are running around and using up so much energy on these things that have solutions because we've convinced ourselves that there are no solutions. And these things make us absent-minded. They make us forget things or not see things that are right in front of us. And we then are told that that's just mommy brain. But it's not mommy brain. It's mommy brain is, when we're talking about mommy brain, it's really something that doesn't really have a solution. I mean, if your hormones are out of whack because you just gave birth, then that's something that we have to kind of accept for a little bit. But what's going on with moms' brains is that we don't have a system in place to deal with the stresses of what it is to really take on and raise children in today's world with all our other demands. So then we say it's just mommy brain and kind of leave it up to I don't know, just leave it up to like, this is just the way things are, and we stop looking for solutions. But there are solutions. Having a system to know that you are tending to the most important things in your life, an actual physical system in place to tend to the important things, not to the little minor things, the important things, relieves your amygdala. It relieves that stress center of your brain because you're checking things off your list. So things like mommy guilt goes away. Things like that stress, that paralyzing stress, or the waking up in the middle of the night or sleeping at a very like surface level because you're not tending to the needs of yourself and your family. That's what that underlying stress is from, not because there's like dirty dishes in the sink. So I would, check where you are as far as what you're calling mommy brain, where you're feeling stressed out, and make sure that it's not actual mommy brain, which is the chemical reaction, right? The hormonal reaction after having children. And if it's not that, and it's actually that you are sleep deprived, which could be one of the things, or you're super stressed out, then now you've acknowledged the problem. The second step is believing that there's got to be a solution to this problem, because this is your life. You're not supposed to live it absentmindedly, right? If this is the life situation that you're supposed to be in, if you're supposed to be a working mom to your children, if you're supposed to create, financial care and emotional care to your children, then you should be able to handle both of them. And if that's not happening, then something's got to shift. Something's not working. Something's out of balance. And we need to actually look at what those potential things that we can actually move around are. And a major thing is having a system in place so you know that you're tending to the important things in your life. So your unconscious stressors in your brain are actually at ease, because those are the things that are paralyzing us in fear and preventing us from moving forward with our highest function. All right, guys, that's what I have for you today. I hope my eye shifting back and forth to the two projections wasn't so crazy. And the holidays are coming up. So this is actually a great time if you have a couple of days where you're not at work. And for those of you who are working through the holidays, thinking of you, and I'm here if you need to talk, if you're stressed out about that too. Holidays are really stressed out, but this is really a time for you to reflect upon your year to see, what have you done? How have you been doing? How can you improve? And again, accepting and realizing that there's an issue going on, believing that there is a solution, deciding that there's a solution, and then a relentless search for that solution is so, so important. So if you feel like you need to have this system in place, that your kids are 7 and 12 and 13, and you have mommy brain, which now you're realizing is not actually that, it's something else in your systems that's not actually put in place, and you want help to figure out what you can possibly do, and you want to talk out what's going on in your life right now and what's not working and where you actually want it to be, then reach out to me and let's have a conversation. That's what I'm here for. So I can put a link to my calendar also in the comments, and you can click on find a time that works for you. I have a little bit of time open in the next week or so, and I'd be happy to jump on a call and just talk out what's going on for you so you guys can get ready for 2019, start the year off right, moving forward in your 4 big spaces, which is who you are as a person, how you are with your partner, how you are with your children and how you're raising your children, and what's going on in your career. So give me a call and I'd love to chat with you. And either way, have an amazing, amazing holiday season. All right, speak to you guys later.